So I pulled all my sticks. You know, each battery is a nominal voltage of 7.2 volts. It's got 6 cells in each stick. When I pulled all these cells, they were all sitting around 3 volts. So that's about half a volt for each cell. Each cell is 1.2 volts nominal. So that's pretty darn low. About 1 volt is where the cutoff usually is when you measure these things. So, you know, they had been sitting for quite a long time. I'm guessing at least 8 years. So that wasn't too surprising. So, got your cells. The hex side is going to be your negative, while the square side is going to be your positive. So what I did is I've got a Cadex 7400C. My presets, you know, these apply to any machine really. This one's nice because it has 4 bays. Of course, the wires don't quite reach, so I've got quite a few jumper wires to reach all the sticks. That's going to throw off any sort of internal resistance test this machine does, which is why I'm not putting too much faith in that. I went through and I tested all the internal resistance using the same station with the same jumper wires to get consistent results. And that's what you're really looking for, is to see if there's any outliers in your pack, to see what's weak and what's going to drag your pack out of balance when you put it all back together. So, like I said, they're sitting about half a volt a cell. You can see one running. This is the last one running right now. You can see it's testing 72%, still going, discharging at 6 amps, which is as high as this machine goes per bay. I've seen other individual, you know, a lot of times people buy individual charge dischargers for each cell. This one can do 3 amps on all 4 bays charging, and up to 6 amps of discharge. So that's what I've got it set to. That kind of brings up the charge slower. You know, you're gonna get more accurate results by charging it up slower and making sure all those cells, all 6 cells, come up to the same level before it does its capacity test. So consistently, very surprisingly, for every one of these cells I've tested, or every one of these sticks, with very few exceptions, they first tested around 5% capacity after bringing it up to a full charge and then discharging them at a 6 amp rate of charge. Second cycle results in around 20% capacity. And then the third one usually hits over 100% capacity. And that's 100% of 6.5 amp hours, which is what I've set this machine up to test for. That's the target capacity threshold. So at the third test, pretty much across the board, they're all testing in the low 100s, you know, 102%, 3%. And then I cycled it for a 4th time, which I've seen a lot of people say 3 is all you need to do. A couple of the sticks did require more than 3 to bring it up above 100%. Like this cell here, that's why it's the last one I'm testing, is because it's on its 4th cycle. And for its 3rd cycle, it was testing right at 100%, which I wasn't very happy about, because all of them have been in the mid hundreds after their 3rd cycle. But 3rd cycle to 4th cycle, I usually see about a 3 to 5% gain over the 3rd cycle. So that puts these batteries all in a range of, I think this is actually the lowest testing one, which is 102%. And then it ranges all the way up to 110% is the best stick that I've had in my pack. So you know, about an 8% spread across the whole pack, which, as far as I understand, capacity isn't going to be the killer of this pack's success. The killer is going to be what pulls these cells apart from one another and makes the pack imbalanced. So on my, as far as I can tell, my internal resistance across all these have been very similar as well. It's kind of hard to replicate. I got a lot of inconsistent results. I'm not sure if that's because the jumpers just, you know, have some imperfect connections that maybe add some resistance to the circuit. I'm not 100% sure why that is. But so yeah, now that your cells are all tested and they're all within a reasonable range of one another, there's no outliers. They're all testing a decent capacity, 80% or above would be ideal. These are all testing 100%, despite them being retired, even after the owner had grid charged them for quite a long time. I'm not sure the story on that, whether he was expecting to grid charge it once a year, and you know, as time moved on and he had to grid charge it more consistently, he just gave up on that, or he had another insight. Maybe he just moved his focus over to that car. I'm not 100% sure. But so, yeah, once we've got all these up to the same voltage, or fully charged, and you've documented all the capacity, then what I do is I bought this Harbor Freight 100 amp load tester. This is just for 6 volt, 12 volt batteries, car batteries, obviously. And I've seen a lot of people, you know, test with 90 amps, 70 amps. So this is the closest I could get. You know, this is $17. Really not much of an investment if you're doing this yourself. You know, it'll do the job as long as you're not pulling that many amps for too long. You know, you shouldn't have any problems with cooking any wires or getting the packs or getting the sticks too hot. So this is going to be, you know, once you've done a 6 amp capacity testing them with a 6 amp load, that's around 1C discharge. You know, that tells you something, but these packs are going to see, you know, up to maybe even 100 amps while in the car, depending on your setup. So it's good to put them under a real conditions, putting a real load on them and seeing if there's any outliers. So what I've been doing is I've been testing them for 10 seconds. As far as I can tell, that's what everyone says is about, you know, all you should need to weed them out. What you're looking for is a big voltage drop, because that indicates that one of these cells is dropping off under that load prematurely, and so that would throw an IMA code if it were in the car and you were giving it the beans, giving it full acceleration, and a couple of these cells drop out in a pack. You know, that's all it takes to throw a code. So you're looking to see if there's any weak cells in your sticks, even after you've capacity tested them. So I'm just going to demonstrate that now. This one's fresh off the charger, which isn't really ideal. These rest around 8.2 volts after sitting for a couple days right off of the charger. So this isn't the best example. On one that's right off the charger like this, I'd probably do it once or twice just to be sure. But from what I read, 5.4 volts is going to be the threshold you're looking for. You shouldn't see anything under 5.4 volts. If you do, it should be lingering at that voltage. You shouldn't see a sharp drop off, like I said, because that would indicate that one of these cells is prematurely failing under a heavy load like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold it for 10 seconds, and I'll show you. I've got my voltmeter hooked up, and I've got the clamps for the load tester so I can monitor the voltage accurately, because I don't really trust this analog gauge. You know, it's nice in a pinch, but it's not gonna give you the consistent results you're looking for. So I'm gonna hold it for 10 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you could see there, didn't drop below 6.7 volts. On the packs that have rested for at least a day, I went through all of them. They all consistently bottomed out around 6.5 volts after 10 seconds. And that was a nice, steady, gradual decline. So I know there's not any failing cells. This one was a bit higher because, like I said, it's fresh off the charger. So it's got quite a bit of surface charge left on it. You can see it's bouncing back all the way up to, probably going to bounce back to 8.4 volts. So yeah, that's a good stick. I'll do it again just for demonstration purposes, but you know, with it being hot off the charger like this, it's not going to drop to the same voltage as all the other ones. But you can see just a nice gradual decline. There's no acceleration of voltage drop, voltage sag. So yeah, I'm happy with that one. That's another good stick. So this is all very analog. I'm not doing too much data logging. I'm just looking for any glaring failures to try and set apart any bad sticks. I've only got 2 sticks left so far. Everything's looking good. Honestly, I'm going to put these in the car as is, without too much more testing. I'm gonna set, after I have these last ones tested, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get them all back up to a full charge so they're all at the same level, and I'm going to date them, make sure I know when they were finished charging, and I'm gonna let them sit for 10 days just so I can record the capacity after sitting for 10 days. What that's going to tell me is whether any of these batteries have a self-discharge problem. All these batteries naturally self-discharge. It's one of the disadvantages to nickel metal hydride. However, obviously, if they're all falling and self-discharging at the same rate, it's not too much of a worry. If one drops significantly compared to the rest, that's where you've got a problem. So it's going to take me a while to get them all up to a full charge, because I can only charge 4 at a time. So that's why I'm going to date each one so I can test them in chronological order, so I can make sure that my results are all consistent across, you know, a couple days of charging. So yeah, we'll start from there. We'll put it back together, and then I'll do an update and see how successful this rebuild was, if you can even call it a rebuild. I guess you would call it a recondition, because that's all I've done is cycled these cells, put them under some strain to try and weed out any bad ones. But at this point, I'm not seeing anything concerning, so we'll put it back together and see how it does.